everyone, back at it again in my little yellow kayak. Job number one is to navigate that small flock of Canada geese. I'll give them a wide berth and they'll do the same for me. We've got perfect overcast conditions for fishing. I just wish there was a little bit more wind, and there's a little bit of a ripple across the lake, so you know what I'm going to do. I'm going to kick it into fast forward mode, paddle across the lake, and catch up to that wind. So I said it's perfect overcast conditions, and there are, but we've got a storm front approaching, which is even better for fishing. But it's not so great for the kayak fishermen, because once I paddle 20 minutes to the other side of the lake, there's not really a lot of options for me to go if that rainstorm catches up to me. So if it's just light rain, what I'm going to do is put my hood up on my sun shirt, and you can hear the rain coming across the lake. If you've never experienced it, it's kind of loud. You know, it sounds like a motorboat's coming up on you. The rain got a little intense there for a minute. I had to put away the camera. The camera's good and just light drizzle, but it can't handle any kind of heavy rain. The way I have it rigged up isn't waterproof. Anyway, I fished around a little bit, just partly to give my arms a rest after paddling across the lake. That's a Heddon One-Knocker Spook in the bonehead color. It looks a lot like a herring or maybe a shad. Anyway, what I didn't realize was there was a second front headed right for me. And now I'm on the other side of the lake. There's no place to haul out and take shelter. It's all houses and development. So I ended up taking shelter underneath a big pine tree that was growing up next to shore. And I still got drizzled on, but it really wasn't bad. I could have stayed there for a long time. And it was really coming down in the rest of the lake. If it was thundering and lightning, I'd find a little access row or private boat ramp or something and haul up there for a few minutes. I don't think anybody would mind if it was thundering and lightning, and then jump back in the boat. But this worked out pretty well. I can't really show the rain on camera too much because the GoPro isn't waterproof, like I said. But you see me looking around, I can hear it coming at me. And it's caught up to me now. And I'm looking around for a place to take some shelter. I'm looking for a big tree. I'm looking left. First thing I'm going to do is save the camera. Anyway, it ended up working out well. And then once the storm went past, you wouldn't even know it. It turned out to be a pretty nice day. But the fish like these kinds of stormy days, overcast skies, some fronts coming through, and it charges them up. And I'm out here trying to take advantage of that. And the other thing that rain does usually is it clears out the lake. Say there was, 10 people fishing. Well, now there's one. It's just me. Everybody else is gone for the barn. So that's another reason I like fishing in these kind of conditions. So I couldn't get any fish to commit to the Heddon One-Knocker. So I switched gears completely, and I went to a 3-inch storm largo shad in the Pro Blue red pearl color. Has kind of a bluish purpley back and a white belly. It looks a lot like a herring. On a 1/4 ounce jig head. I let that bait hit the bottom, and then I pop it off the bottom and start reeling it slowly, and there was a fish on it almost right away. I would guess that fish either saw it fall to bottom or followed it down to bottom. And then when I started reeling, he was on it immediately. So at least I'm on the board now, and the fishing's going to get a whole lot better. Sometimes after a rainstorm, there's like a rain delay, and the fish seem to have to adjust a little bit, and then it's back to game on. As long as those clouds stick around, the fish usually perk up again. There he is. It's not big, but it's a start. Now the fishing is picking up. Some fish popped up pretty close to me, so I grabbed that spook off the front deck. I missed the first 2 strikes, but I think I got the 3rd or 4th one. And I don't know, maybe that bait is just a little bit big for him in terms of matching the herring, or maybe there was some small fish up top and it took a while before a bigger one could grab it. Anyway, eventually one of them took it down. I don't feel like the spook was the deal though. I think later on I switched to a popper. I thought maybe with the spook I was getting too far away from the fish, busting too quickly. And with a popper, even if you walk it, it's not covering nearly as much ground as a spook. So it stays in the strike zone. It stays where they're busting a lot longer. Maybe a little bigger. Not great, but got my second fish in the boat. I heard something. I heard something popping bait. I got my spook ready to go. Just need to turn the boat a little bit. Always seems like they pop up behind me or to my left or to my right. It's never right in front of me. Walking that spook, walking that one-knocker spook. I'm mixing up my retrieve, trying to trigger those fish. Get one to chase it. It's tough because there's a lot of bait, and you have to really convince them that this is something worth chasing, this is something worth eating. And sometimes it takes them a while. First one came at it, missed it. The second one got it. But I like having a topwater on the front deck, and it changes day to day. It could be a whopper plopper or a chopo, could be a walking bait, could be a popper, or some other topwater. But some kind of topwater that I can cast a decent distance and hit those schooling fish that are just popping up, and they don't stay up very long either. You gotta get on them quickly, otherwise they go back down and they're not coming back up for a topwater. And as far as what to throw goes, it changes a little bit with the wind and also with the season. It's still summertime now when this was shot, and the fish are just a little bit lazy. Sometimes in the fall they go absolutely ballistic for a walking bait and they'll run it down. I mean absolutely run it down. But they didn't seem too keen on chasing. I mean, I'm catching a few on the spook, but they're not as keen as I'd like them to be on chasing that bait. That's a little better one. We're making progress. All right. Every time I go to throw that storm largo shad, it seemed like another fish would pop up chasing bait. I got my spook on the front deck. That spook has a single tungsten one-knocker ball in the back, which helps with casting distance. It weighs almost 3/4 of an ounce. It's a little light on my scale, a little shy of 3/4 of an ounce, even though it's listed as 3/4 of an ounce. But it still casts really well. And when you walk it, it has that hard thump, that one knocker, that distinctive one knocking sound from that single tungsten ball. So now I've got a bit of a mess and a bit of a problem on my hands. I got to get the rod with the storm largo shad out of the way. The fish is still hooked. It's on the one knocker, and I'm holding the rod tightly between my knees so the rod doesn't go flying overboard. But I will get this mess sorted out in a jiffy. I'm looking around for my lip grippers so I don't accidentally stick my thumb into a treble hook. I'll get him on the lip grippers and show him to you. There he is. It's not a giant, but a decent largemouth. Seemed like it was all largemouth in the early going. Sometimes smallmouth will get in the mix here too. Yeah, so I'm making that one-knocker spook work. There he is. I feel like I could use a little bit more wind. That would be ideal for the one-knocker spook. But, you know, I'm making it work. I'm catching a few fish on it. Later on, I'm going to swap out to a popper, though. All right, back to the storm largo shad. Cast it out, let it hit bottom. And then it's just a slow, steady reel back in. Slow rolling it back. Every once in a while, I give it a little pop or a jerk. Sometimes that's to clear the junk that's on the bottom, or maybe I run into some weeds or something down there. I'll give it another pop like that. But most of the time, it's just a slow, steady reel, and I want to go as slow as I can while still staying above the weeds and the junk that might be down there. And I got another fish. Got some weeds on the line. Those could have been just weeds up from the surface hanging around. The boats churn up the weeds. I mean the power boats. There he is. Not bad. Got him. There he is. Nice largemouth. The storm largo shad has a little tendon on the tail. You can take that extra tendon, it's like an Achilles tendon. You can take that tendon out of the bait and give it some more tail wag. But I kind of like fishing it stock. It's a little bit tighter of a wiggle and maybe a little bit more durable too. It helps keep that tail on the bait. After a while though, the fish ripped the tendon apart, and then I had the extra tail wiggle if I wanted it or not. I think this was my very next cast. Same deal, just casting the storm largo shad out, letting it hit bottom, and then I'm just doing a slow roll back in. Every once in a while I have to remind myself to go slower. If you go too fast, the bait will rise. Even with a decently heavy jig head on there, it'll start to rise. And I feel like I want to keep it down low and maybe get a few more fish by doing that. It seems like the fish come up to bust up the herring schools, and then they go back down. And maybe they're picking off dead or dying herring that are kind of drifting back down to the bottom. Or maybe that's just kind of where they lurk until they want to set up again on the herring. Either way, they tend to splash around on top, eat the herring, then go back down, and then whenever that magical time is they want to come back up, that's when they do it, and then back down again. This next clip was kind of funny. I cast out the storm largo shad, and then fish started popping up in front of me. So I grabbed the topwater. I'm all set to go. Start working that one-knocker spook. But they didn't seem too into it. They were being a little funny about the spook today. Maybe it's because I don't have enough wind right now. I bet the JT-115, the silent walking bait, would get him in these conditions, but I didn't bring it. I thought I'd have more wind once I got over here. Anyway, the spook didn't work out. So I reel it in, put that back on the front deck so it's ready. And then I start reeling in my largo shad. Give it a few hard pops off the bottom to clear the junk off of it. I'm reeling a little bit faster than I should right now. Doesn't seem to matter though for the fish. Something charged up and got it. When you reel fast like that, it's going to come up off the bottom at about a 45-degree angle. And usually that's not what I want. I want it to stay down low and slow as long as I can. But it ended up working out. Nice little fat bass. Yeah, not bad. These next fish popped up a little bit closer to the boat, and so I could get on them with a weightless fluke. And if I can reach them with a weightless fluke, that's the way I like to catch them. I like having that single hook in them. It does less damage to the fish. It pins them really well. Once they eat that fluke with a single hook and I set up on them pretty well, 9 out of 10 times they're coming in the boat. They have a real hard time throwing that single hook. It sticks them really well, holds really well. Holds better than a jig head, holds better than a topwater. I'm not even being very careful landing this fish, and I still got him. Anyway, anytime I can catch him on a fluke, I like doing that. Nice fish. Thanks, buddy. So I decided to give the 3-inch storm largo shad a rest, and I picked up a jig and a minnow. The jig is a 1/4-ounce tin jig head with a 5-inch Strike King Z2 on the back of it in the deal color. Now, it says right on the package it's made with the same Z-Man Elastec plastic as the jerk shads. And the 5-inch jerk shads and the 5-inch Strike King Z2 are almost identical baits. Maybe they're poured in the same factory. If not, they're very, very similar. Anyway, I've got the Z2 on right now, and the advantage of the elastomer plastic is that it lasts a really long time. You know, a little fish pulling at the tail, no problem. You could probably catch, I don't know, dozens of fish on a single bait. And they're very economical. And I like the fact that it's a little bit bigger too. It's a 5-inch bait, so it has a bigger profile, and maybe I could get a few bigger fish with it. And I just wanted to see if they'd eat it. I kind of figured out the retrieve I liked, or the fish liked, with the freeloader, and now I'm branching out and trying some other baits. And it seems to be working. So let's do that again. I think this was my very next cast. Cast pretty far. Let that bait go all the way to the bottom. See my line go slack when it hits bottom. Pick up the slack line with my reel. And then I start a slow retrieve. I'm reeling the handle slowly, and I'm shaking that bait. I could go even slower, but there's a few weeds on the bottom. I'm trying to stay above the weeds. Just shaking that rod with my wrist and slowly reeling with my left hand, waiting for the fish to pop it. They seem like they come up behind it and just kind of suck it in. And most of the time I just have to reel set them. I'm fishing it with a loop knot on the jig head, and I don't really want to whack that knot too hard. That one's a jumper. I think it was a largemouth, even though it was jumping pretty high. Usually the smallmouth like to jump high right next to the boat. I got to be a little bit more careful with my drag too, with the loop knot on the jig head. I'm using that loop knot to give the bait the most action that I can. He almost knocked himself out on my boat. Anyway, I scooped him up now. That's a good one. A little bit better. Yeah, getting there. Thanks for playing, bud. I had a little bit of a lull in the action, which allowed me to tie on a river to sea bubble walker, the 80mm bubble walker in the abalone shad color, instead of that Heddon One-Knocker Spook. I've got almost no wind now, and I thought a popper might be a better choice. They could be a shad imitator, could be a herring imitator. It's got kind of silvery sides, black back, black and white dressed treble on the rear, and a chartreuse cupped mouth with 2 holes on either side of the mouth that allow water to go through. So it leaves a little bit of a bubble trail. Walks great. You can pop it. You can do a lot with that popper. And it's not that expensive either, especially if you get it on sale. Anyway, a smallmouth came up and whacked it. Those tipped in points there, they hold the fish pretty well. I'm being a little bit careful so I don't get hooked myself. Smallmouth here tend to run a little bit bigger on average than the largemouth. There he is. Nice smallie. Nice and fat. Nice healthy fish. It's been eating those herring. Oh geez, that didn't sound too good. I turned the volume up on that last little clip so you could hear the wind knot going through the guides. In case you've never heard it before, that's what it sounds like. And I knew right away I had a problem. And then I hooked a fish, which kind of doubles the problem. I was trying to get that line in so I could take care of it. But now that fish is going to set that wind knot in the braid, so I'm not going to be able to pull it out without risking damage to the line. And the other problem I'm going to have is that the wind knot can get caught in the line roller as it's going onto the reel and break. But luckily this fish wasn't too big and he didn't go too crazy, and I was able to get my thumb on him, save the bait. release the fish. And yeah, the wind knot's pretty well buried into my spool right now. And I'm just going to release that fish. And I'm going to put that rod behind me. I'm going to retire it for the morning and fish with some of the other rods I brought, because I don't want to risk breaking off a fish or losing a lure or, wrecking more of the line that's on the spool than I already have. And just deal with it when I get home. That's the easiest way for me to handle this situation. So I'm going to fish with a 3-inch Crush City Mare in the Tennessee shad color. That's replacing my largo shad. But before I could even catch a fish on it, some fish started busting to my right. Always behind me or to my right or to my left, never in front of me. That's okay. This is a good problem to have, all these fish busting around me. It's usually not like this, I have to say that. This is a morning thing, and it is extended and, charged up by overcast conditions and storms coming through. These fish were close enough to hit them with a super fluke, so that's what I did. I let it settle a little bit, and then I'm slowly working that super fluke along. It's almost like working a topwater. I'm only fishing about 6 to 12 inches below the surface, and these fish come up from below and they smoke it. It's a fun way to fish. Also, if fish are starting to shy away from a topwater because it's later in the morning, a lot of times you can still catch them on a super fluke. Even if they won't come up all the way for a topwater, they can still come up for a super fluke. Not bad. Thanks for playing, bud. So back to the Crush City Mare. Let's see if I can fish this before some other fish start popping bait. Cast it out, let it hit bottom, and then it's going to be a slow wind back to the boat. Nice and slow. Just a slow roll back. I have to remind myself to go slow every once in a while. My natural pace is a lot faster than this, so I have to really focus to make sure I'm going slow. Oh, and some more fish popped up. And again, they're behind me. Always behind me. We'll get that Crush City Mare in all the way. There they go again. I can hear them. They're taunting me now. Let's see if some come up closer. If they come up close in range, I can get them. Up. I got them on the mare first. Yeah, I like both the Crush City Mare and the Largo Shad. They're different, but they're both 3-inch swim baits. I think they kind of play in the same arena. I don't know if I have a favorite between the two of them. They both seem to work. I would say the Storm Largo Shad is slightly more durable, maybe because of that little plastic tendon on the paddle tail that helps with the durability. I think the colors in the Crush City Mare may be a little bit more realistic, but the Largo Shad colors are fine too. And if you have bait fish in your area that match, one pattern over the other, I'd say definitely give one or both a try. There he is, another largemouth. He choked it too. That's how you want him to eat it. That's how you know you got the right bait, the right color, the right retrieve. Nice. Thanks for playing, bud. Well, I had a good time out here this morning. A lot of fun. Caught a lot of fish. All different lures. I don't know if there was really a star, but I like catching them on topwater when I can. That Heddon One-Knocker Spook's a great bait. I just didn't really have the ideal conditions for it this morning. The River to Sea Bubble Walker, especially the 80 size. The 120 is a good size too. It's just a bigger bait with 3 trebles. I got a few on the Super Fluke. Couple on the 3-inch swim baits. And the 5-inch Strike King Z2 in the deal color. That was another good bait for me. I bet you could have caught these fish on a lot of different things. So maybe the star of today really is just the overcast conditions with the storm coming through. I got the whole lake to myself. That's mostly due to the rain that came through a little bit earlier. And yeah, I just say if you want to catch a bunch of fish and you can stand a little bit of rain, these are pretty good conditions for fishing, and conditions that I don't want to stay home and miss. I want to be out here when it's, you know, kind of overcast and stormy. As long as there's no thunder and lightning. Thunder and lightning's a different ball game, especially with graphite rods pointed up towards the sky. Yeah, that's not a good mix. Anyway, thank you all for watching. I really appreciate it. Just like all my other videos, I'll list all the gear in the video description so you can duplicate what I was doing out here today at your own home lakes and hopefully have some good success there too. I'll catch you on the next one. See ya!